let's talk about resolutions, like New Year's resolutions, but we're going to expand on it a little bit. So this morning I woke up, and I'm usually up earlier than Chelsea is, and it's dark, and then all of a sudden I hear, "I love you." Oh. And there's this bubbliness and this enthusiasm, and I'll even get some screeches sometimes. And that actually prompted this video talking about relativity with resolutions, New Year's resolutions. It's just a good time because people are thinking about those kind of things. But we're going to kind of look at what they are. And how do we wake up like Chelsea wakes up? That would be another great thing to explore, because she seems quite delighted with herself and the world. And so let's look at it. What is relativity? So relativity is like, I'm here, and if I turn around, I'm walking towards that mountain. So I'm relative to that mountain wherever I am, wherever we're measuring. So it's the same thing as if you were to measure, let's say, a cabinet or a space for a couch. Let's use that. We would want to say, okay, we want the couch to start here, and then we want to move it to over here. So it's the measurement is relative to these 2 points. And so in a psychology, relativity is kind of like, here's a really easy example. So if you were to pick a religion, let's say, then the circumstances of your life you are going to measure relative to the belief system that you chose. So, or it can be a philosophy, it can be, some people live by cliches. Whatever it is, that's your relativity point. That's what you bring into, like, that's what you're measuring against. And so I asked Chelsea, I said, what was your inspiration to wake up like that in the day? And what she got around to talking about was that she works on her chakras. So she basically wakes up, the first thing that she does is she goes through her chakra system and then starts thinking about gratitude, and then this sometimes bubbles up and turns into this glee and this excitement and this happiness and joy. And so that's where she begins her relativity. That's her overlay, and that's what we talk about in Lensfarianism, is religion, psychology, philosophy. It's all overlays, and these overlays are what create our reality. That is our relativity. It's relative from that point of view. So Chelsea and I talked a lot about it in December, about what we were excited about 2025, and we want to talk about being activators rather than giving and receiving, which is what happens in the egoverse. We want to be activators. So what that has done relative to my experience has been, if I catch myself drifting off or being bored, or like I'm not enthusiastic about a moment, I'm reminded that this is the overlay that I've put over my experience. And then it will get me to, and I'm like, okay, I'm an activator. That overlay. So that's like the New Year's resolution. The resolution is to change in some way, but what you're really saying is, I want to put a new relativity point. I want to start from a different measuring tape. And so it's like, for me, that's a great one, because anytime that I'm feeling this, it's when I'm drifting away from the present moment, the now, then I will have these down-ticking experiences. But then those down-ticking experiences aren't bad. They're now a catalyst to have me reframe my moment and to becoming an activator. And I'm just like, okay, I'll think of somebody, I'll think of something that I would love to see, an excitement in the world, whatever it is, and I elevate that good feeling within me by bringing up that subject into my field, and then I'm renewed with good feelings, and that's the Lenzafarian way. Is that's the overlay of the Lenzafarian, is to go to the good feelings, to continue having the overlay, so that the most beautiful perspective is the one that shines through all the other perspectives. That's the Lenzafarian approach to the world, is finding and looking and creating it. But that overlay is the important part, and that's what I wanted to talk about. It's like, do you know where your attention flows? So if you think about it, and I can think about times in my life where I didn't have much focus, and this probably happens a lot, especially in our culture, is like we will find this comfortable life, and then we will just keep waking up and we just do the same thing every day, do the same thing. And it's because that's the interesting thing about living in a comfortable society, and living in a society that creates these experiences like jobs and these kind of things, where we can go into like automatic mode, and then we're not really bringing a strong point of view. We're not putting an overlay over us. It's like, whatever the circumstances of the day are, I will just do the thing. And basically what we're doing then is we're giving our power away to the outside circumstances, and we're saying, you hold the relativity point for me today. So whatever happens, I'll just kind of adjust, bob, weave, and whatever else, but I'm not the one going to hold that relativity point. Like, I'm just doing me, and I'm going to have some disappointments and maybe some good times, but the thing that I'm really looking forward to is the paycheck or the weekend or whatever else. So the idea of resolutions, it's a really great idea. And I'm not going to talk about really the negative aspect that people, I did experience it when I would go to the gym and it would all of a sudden be real busy in January, and then by March it was empty again. But I don't see it that way. It's like we can take time anytime we want. It doesn't just have to be on New Year's. Anytime are we, and asking ourselves, what point of view, what am I holding true in relativity? Like, what do I want to see? And like, where am I going? We can question. If we just start looking at that, it's like we can really understand reality, the abstractness of reality. Meaning like what the heck do I do? And am I doing the right thing or whatever else? It's like we can actually point our focus and make the relativity point for ourselves and move forward with that. And then we know where our attention's going. It's kind of interesting in like psychology. There's this over the last 5 years or so, there's been this obsession with narcissists and narcissism. And it's like, what that discussion, it should be like, if it was just like a blip, it'd be like, oh, what is this? And, oh, let's talk about that. Okay, whatever. But there are people that wake up every single day to have this conversation, to point out who's the narcissist. So think about it. Relative, what they are seeing is they're looking for the villain. That's usually what the narcissists get. They don't usually get a lot of praise. And so it's like, if you recognize that all you're doing is looking for a villain, you're in a victim-villain story. You're everything that you're coming in contact with, everything that you put together will have the essence of victim-villain mentality. And I'm not saying whether that's good or bad, but it is like, you can then kind of understand why you're moving in that direction. Like, you're Because if you're looking for it, you're going to find it. There's going to be narcissists all over the place. You can turn in, a lot of those people actually have very narcissistic traits because they're doing what narcissists do, which is to analyze people and to judge them. So it's very interesting. So this is just, it's just about like playing with life. It's like, what is your overlay? And do you know where you're pulling your attention? And is the thing that's pulling your attention, is it good for your soul? Is it something beautiful? It's kind of like I was thinking about in this sense of, I've gotten kind of interested in conspiracy theories recently, but not from the point of view of being a conspiracy theorist, somebody that just like lives to find all the evidence of the conspiracy. For me, it's just I'm hearing people talking about these conspiracies, and then there's new evidence that's kind of flushing up. And it's kind of, I just want to kind of look at reality and understand reality a little bit. But if you're a conspiracy theorist, like, think about what the relativity, what your overlay, the lens that you're looking through is, whatever conspiracy it is, you're always looking for evidence that's going to support what you believe true to be about that conspiracy. And, and you can see that there's all different levels of it. People can just, make up stuff in their minds. They can be so hooked to believing something that's going to be true. And they will fight to the death that their conspiracy is correct. And then you can also just be like, oh, that's interesting. I want to look at that. I'd like to explore that because that's the interesting thing. If some conspiracy theories are true, then as a collective, we have had a relativity point that has been influencing where our attention goes, and all of us has been measuring against that. Like, that's a really good example too, right there, is like the people that are still like addicted to the news and opinions and trying to figure it out. It's just, the ego verse. It's like the ego verse, your relativity point when you're, I'm just going to say, completely stuck in the ego, is you're having a conversation in your head about your character and what your character's up to, and then how that your character measures with all the other characters. And so what do you need to do? Like, that's why you would go and just ad nauseum, just be listening to opinions and finding out what to be scared of for the day. It's like, because what you're doing is for the people that are looking for how to stay safe, it's like you're in there going, I got to keep this character. Whatever this character is inside, I got to keep it safe. I got to keep it safe, and then I got to tell everybody else. That's going to be my duty, is going to be, how do I keep this character safe, and then the people around me that I love, how am I going to keep them safe? And that's the story that's going on inside the head, because you're having a conversation inside your head within the ego of what is your character doing, and then you're measuring your worth every day. And that's why people can't sleep at night, is because you've got to put all the new data together to make sure that your character is okay. But if you think relative to, like, if you're coming from that conversation in your head, everything makes sense. The news makes sense. Our politics make sense. The kerfluffles, the fighting, it all makes sense when we're coming from an egoic perspective, when it's just a bunch of characters that are being created by a story in their head. It's because the world then is going to be relative to whatever that story is that's going in your head. And so if you're watching this video, the idea is we get to choose. Like, we get to choose our overlay. We get to choose where our attention goes. So recently I've heard this expression of threading the eye of the needle. And it's like an Alan Watts kind of thing, where his idea is you thread the needle to find now. because that's what the idea is when we're in our minds and we're talking about the character that we're playing. We could be talking ourselves out of doing something, like if we have a goal to go to the gym. Threading the eye of the needle would be, you just go to the gym. If you said you're going to go to the gym, you just go to the gym. Whereas like your character might go, well, what's going to happen at the gym? And should I justify doing it? And it'll have a story about it. And so the idea of threading the needle is you put that overlay on, and it's like, if I'm going to the gym, I go to the gym. You're just not doing the justification thing. And so for me, one of the overlays is the idea that for me, the now is the keyhole. The keyhole where the light comes through, where it shows us that time is just a construct that our minds make up. And the only thing that's ever going on is the now. There is no future, there is no past, there is now. And it is, when I feel connected, it's like any kind of conversation that I'm having inside of my head just goes away. And so that's kind of one of my overlays, is that if I feel a bit of anxiety, and that's the beautiful thing when you start to realize that anxiety doesn't have to be a bad thing, because it can just be the catalyst. It's like, oh, that was my catalyst to go, oh, I'm not present. Okay, great. So then it becomes like a tick. You don't get mad at yourself for being anxious. You just go, oh, great. I got to go back to the now. So I got to put my eye, I'm into the lens-of-orient thing, put my eye up to the keyhole, and I remember that time doesn't exist. I don't have to worry about the future. I don't have to worry about the past. I can just be present and move forward in time. And that's the idea of like awakening. I have found is that, there was this sense when it first happened for me, or what I call an awakening. It's hard, like people have all kinds of different ideas of what awakening is. For me, it was just really understanding that I was playing this character, and that all these roles that I had brought attention to and thought were so important. It was who I was, and this is why people should like me, and blah, 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 blah. And then I was just like, oh, all that just went away. And I had this realization, and then I thought, oh, well, everything's going to be great from here on out. And what I have found from experiencing it not being so great after that experience was that I'm still in control of my experience. And so it is about relensifying, finding that now. And it's like that process. It was, I remember Ram Dass talking about how his mentor basically would just say Ram, 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 meaning God, all day long. And that was to me, that was the idea, is we're all, there's still this process of what are we doing inside with the thoughts that are going on in our head. And that idea is, for me, is saying Ram, 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 Ram all day long is just, hey, I'm committing to being in the now all the time. And so all day long, Ram, 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 Ram. And sometimes I'll even do that. If I'm feeling a little off or whatever, I'll be like, okay, Ram, 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 Ram. And that lifts my spirit and goes right along with being an activator. Is my duty is to be compassionate. And in my world, compassion is not a down-ticking thing, experiencing other people's grief. I will look out where I can see grief, but I relensify it and take the process of whatever the situation is, and find the engaged or processed experience of that as some kind of grief. Then I will find, joy or whatever else, an uplifting kind of sensation. And that's the thing I'm gifting to that experience and to those people. So it's really cool that when we really understand relativity, we're really going to have great conversations, because we can understand that when we're making up opinions and we're coming up with ideas and everything else, it's like, do you know what your opinion is relative to? And that's the thing is, and I think that's why people sometimes are a little intimidated when having a talk with me, because it's like that's just a natural question for me. It's like, well, relative to what? And people are like, what do you mean? It's like, well, they only think about it from having the conversation with the little character inside their head that they're measuring with the world, and they don't even realize that there's a gazillion different relativity points out there. And that's the first thing. If you work with me, if you have a phone call with me or sit with me, that's what I'm going to want to know. What's your overlay? Like, how do you see the world? What are you measuring the world with? Are you religious, spiritual? And then even inside of those, it's like, how do you look at that? Are you, there's different kinds of fundamentalism. There's, like a personal thing. Is this a personal, or is this, I am a tribesman with my religion or my philosophy? And it's like, that's what you get with Lensafarianism, is that you get to see all these different perspectives, because I don't have to attach things being bad perspectives, because that's the interesting thing about the ego, is that it feels as if it needs to hate things, and that is your gift to the world, is what do I hate? And the problem with that is you can't see what's behind the understanding of what's going on. It's like a limited version of the world. And that's what really waking up is being able to simply take more relativity points, understand where people are coming from. And so anyway, I'll just leave it there. And do you know your relativity point? I'll put this back onto you. Do you know how you want to look at things, how you want to change things? Because I tell you, like, if you are just trying to change the outside world, and there's a lot of people that have like really great overlays they're putting out in this world, but there's other people that are actually committing to harder things to do. And it's like, do you even know what you're doing? Like, look at your relativity, and because that's where your attention's going to go. That's what we know, and it doesn't matter whether you're in the egoverse or outside the egoverse. That's our attention is our attention. So anyway, hope you're having a great day.